Welcome to Parkview Elementary's Flipped Classroom. Today we're going to talk about equivalent ratios. The objective of this lesson, you will learn to write equivalent ratios by multiplying or dividing the terms of a ratio by the same factor. In this lesson, you will hear vocabulary terms. Equivalent ratios. These are ratios that are of different forms but have the same value when simplified. Example, 8 to 12 and 2 to 3 are equivalent ratios. Simplest form ratio. A ratio whose terms are whole numbers and have no common factor other than 1. Let's learn equivalent ratios. Troy has 8 red marbles and 12 blue marbles. The ratio of number of red marbles to the number of blue marbles is 8 to 2. Wants to put 2 marbles of the same color in each group. So he wants the same color. He wants to put 2 in each group. Putting 2 marbles into a group. So how many groups of red marbles does he have? He has 4 groups. How many groups of blue marbles does he have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has 6 groups. What's the ratio of the number of groups of red marbles to the number of groups of blue marbles? He has 4 groups of red marbles and 6 groups of blue marbles. So the ratio is 4 to 6. Now Troy wants to make 4 groups of the same color in each group. Notice he is not changing the number of red marbles or the number of blue marbles. Those are staying the same. How many groups of red marbles? 2. What is the ratio of the number of groups of red marbles to the number of groups of blue marbles? Well, for the blue marbles, he has 4 groups. 4 are blue. So the ratio is 2 to 4. Again, notice he is not changing the number of red marble or the number of blue marbles. So let's look at it. There were 8 red marbles and 12 blue marbles. He had 4 groups of 2 when he had 8 red marbles, and he had 6 groups of 2 when he had blue marbles. So the ratio 8 to 12 is also 4 to 6. These are equivalent. All we did was put them into different groups. And with 8 red marbles and 12 blue marbles, when he put them in groups of 4, he had 2 groups, and he had 3 groups. So that ratio, 2 to 3, is also an equivalent ratio of 8 to 12. Now it's your turn. Look at the pencils and the erasers. Write the number of pencils to the number of erasers. You will be doing this on your worksheet that you will turn in tomorrow, and we will go over them in class. Now look at number 2. We have put the pencils and the erasers into groups of 2. How many groups do we have of pencils? How many groups of erasers? Once you figure that out, the ratios of the number of groups to pencils to the number of groups of the eraser is. Here's another one. This is also put into groups. Blank group of pencils, blank group of erasers. The ratio of the number of groups of pencils to the number of groups of erasers is. And in number 4, you have 10 pencils, 20 erasers. Divide into groups of 2. How many groups of 2 did you have with 10? Groups of 2 when you had 20. And you will do the same in groups of 10. And then down here you will write the ratios. There will be 3 of them. You may pause this video so you can finish it. And then you can restart. Now let's use the greatest common factor to write ratios in simplest form. You can write a ratio in simplest form by dividing the terms by their greatest common factor. Let's express the ratio 50 to 20 in the simplest form. First, we're going to find their greatest common factor. What is the greatest common factor of 50 and 20? Well, that would be 10, because 10 would go into both of them. So, I have 50 and I have 20, and I'm going to divide it by 10. 50 divided by 10 is 5. 20 divided by 10 is 2. So that ratio is 5 to 2, and it is in simplest forms. Neither one of these have a common factor. Next, let's express 8 centimeters to 3 meters in simplest form. First, we're going to have to express the two quantities as the same unit. Think 1 meter equals 100. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. If I multiply that by 3, I'm going to have 300. Now, I wrote the ratio without units. Now I have to divide each term by the greatest common factor. Well, I'm going to find the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is 4. So, 8 divided by 4 is 2. 300 divided by 4. I won't do this in my head, even though I can, because I want to show you what I am doing. 30 divided by 4 is 7. 4 times 7 is 28. And that's 5. So it's 75. 2 to 75. Now I have listed that and I have simplified it. Now it's your turn. Express the ratio 12 to 64 in simplest form. Remember, find the greatest common factor. Divide each term by the greatest common factor to simplify. You might have to do it a few times until you can get the greatest common factor, or you could factor out using prime. Pause the lesson and complete. Now express the ratio. 7, that should be a 7. 7 kilograms to 21 grams in simplest form. Think 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. Convert the units. Find the greatest common factor. Divide each term by the greatest common factor to simplify. Again, pause the video and complete this. Let's learn how equivalent ratios have the same ratio in simplest form. Let's look at this picture. What is the ratio of the value of P to the value of Q? I see that P is 1 and Q is 2. So the ratio is 1 to 2. Now let's look at R and S. R is 2, S is 4. So what's the ratio of the value R to the value of S in simplest form? It is 2 to 4. Do we have a greatest common factor of 2 and 4? We do. 2 is a greatest common factor of both. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Are these the same? Yes, they are. So 1 to 2 is the same ratio as 2 to 4. Are the ratios 3 and 4 and 6 and 9 equivalent? Let's check to see if they're both in simplest form. 3 and 4, do they have a greatest common factor? The only factor they have in common is 1, so this is in simplest form. 6 and 9. This has a common factor of 3. This has a common factor of 3. So this common factor is 2 to 3. Are these the equivalent? No, they are not equivalent. 3 to 4 and 2 to 3 are not the same. They're not. Let's look at 1 to 4 and 12 to 3. 1 to 4 is in simplest form. Now let's use 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we have 4 to 1 and 1 to 4. Are these in the same? No, these are not the same. Remember, the order of the terms in the ratio is important. 2 to 5 is not the same as 5 to 2. Just as it is here, this is not the same. The terms must be the same. Now it's your turn. State whether each pair of ratios are equivalent. 7 and 8 and 8 to 7. 5 to 9 and 15 to 27. 12 to 13 and 24 to 39. 4 to 24 and 8 to 48. Pause the video and complete. Now let's learn to find equivalent ratios by multiplication. We've been doing those with division. Now we're going to do with multiplication. Martha plans to bake some loaves of bread. The recipe for 1 loaf, and this should be loaf, not load, loaf of bread uses 3 tablespoons of sunflower seeds and 4 tablespoons of cranberries. If Martha plans to make more loaves of bread, she can find equivalent ratios by the number of tablespoons of sunflower seeds to the number of tablespoons of cranberries by multiplying terms of the ratio by the same number. We see that sunflower seeds to cranberries is 3 to 4. Well, let's multiply it by 2. That ratio would now become 6 to 8. 3 to 4, let's multiply it by 3 because now she wants to make 3 loaves of bread. So she must use 9 tablespoons of sunflower seeds and 12 tablespoons of cranberries. She wants to make 4 loaves. 12 to 16, we're just multiplying. She wants to make 5 loaves. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 5 is 20. So 5 loaves of bread, Martha will use 15 tablespoons of sunflower seed and 20 tablespoons of cranberries. Now it's your turn. Use multiplication to find 3 ratios equivalent to 7 to 8. Remember, you can multiply the terms of the ratio by the same factor to get an equivalent ratio. Pause the video and complete. Let's review. In this lesson, you've learned how to write equivalent ratios by dividing or multiplying the terms of the ratio by the same factor. What you need to bring tomorrow. There is no whisk tonight. Just bring in the worksheet you have completed the problems on from this video to class. We will go over them in class. Also, write in a comment on BlendSpace. This will tell me the time you watched the video. That should say right. Also, write in a comment on BlendSpace. I'm doing some editing, just like you do with red ink. See you tomorrow.